sometimes we don't win.
All right, here we go. Betting Weekly Live with you on a Wednesday. Mike Carver here with you along with Doug Kezirian as we get ready for all of Wednesday night's action. Betting Weekly Studios, 4 elimination games in the Major League Baseball playoffs. We have got some hockey tonight. We've got Game 3 of the WNBA Finals as well as the scene shifts to Phoenix. Got some college football tonight as the long run begins tonight. I forget what it was. I think it's 46 straight nights or something like that of football being on. We're right in that area. Doug, happy Wednesday. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, it's crazy. I talked about it yesterday, right? And I was like, oh, I think we're around that time. Sure enough, today, 49 straight
49.
days of at least one football game. And that's the beauty of this time of year. And you mentioned the elimination games in baseball. We had afternoon games that really matter in sports if you're on the West Coast. So just everything you want as a sports fan or as a bettor. And that's also our advantage, right? The house gets that edge, that juice, the vig, if you will. And we get to choose which games we want, right? And they're a little asleep at the wheel, things along those lines. Something like I have a same game parlay in the WNBA Finals. That's how we roll here, Carver.
We got to have it. Keep going in the window. That's what we need to do tonight, Doug. Let's start with the baseball, of course, because like we said, all teams could all go home today. 4 elimination spots, 2 in the American League, 2 in the National League, including one that has already started in Detroit. The Mariners are looking to send the Tigers home here this afternoon. Got out to a 3-0 lead that they built, but RBI hits by Dingler, Jones, and Baez have now evened this game 3-3 between the Mariners and the Tigers. Mariners still, Doug, slight favorite at Bet Rivers, minus $1.13. Live total is a flat 9 with 6 on the board as they're playing in the top of the 6th inning with 2 outs.
I talked about it yesterday. I think the Tigers sort of shed that stench that they got for blowing the division, right? First round, they were certainly on edge. They had every reason to be, as a bettor to want to fade them because of the collapse. But I think they exercised some demons, and that was really important for their sake. And then to get the clutch hits, the clutch plays to outlast Cleveland. And then now against Seattle, they're more than holding their own. They were the American League favorites after game 1 because they had Skubal going game 2, but give the Mariners credit for bouncing back, chipping away, getting the win. And this Mariners team, I said at the beginning of the playoffs, I think they're going to face the Dodgers in the World Series. I think they are legit. And this game, obviously, an elimination game for Detroit. So this is, I don't want to say must win for Seattle, but you wonder, with Skubal lurking and things like that, this probably is a game that they wanted, but they'll be at home in game 5. I think this Tigers team is not the one we saw collapse. Like I said, they exercised some demons, but nothing in live markets for me. Obviously the huge advantage goes to the home team. The Tigers bullpen isn't something that we love, but they pitched well enough against the Guardians that gives me enough pause to just fire blindly on Seattle.
Yeah, I know they've had a lot of success against Tarik Skubal, but you don't really want to see that guy again in game number 5. You don't want to play with that fire, so we'll see if the Mariners can come get things rolling here now that it's tied. All right, game number 2. Elimination Wednesday in the division series. We'll go to Chicago where they're starting in a matter of moments. Cubs and the Brewers. Cubs basically almost a pick 'em here. They're minus 110, minus 108 as the Brewers are going to try to sweep them. And the total 6.5. That's because, Doug, we get the classic heavy wind blowing in at Wrigley for the late afternoon start in game number 3.
I mean, gosh, going back to high school, I remember trying to bet on the Cubs and stuff when you got Maddox pitching and things. Don't think over 6.5 is the way to go because I tell you, man, you get a nerfy and all of a sudden this thing's at 5. And Tyone's been solid. This guy's always had upside, right? Former number 2 overall pick between Strasburg and Machado, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Or maybe it was Harper and Machado, and I just think he's been able to put it all together in stretches. He's been pitching pretty well. This Brewers lineup is pretty dangerous, and that's the key. But to your point, the wind, and then Priester's going for Milwaukee, and the Brewers always win his games, but that's, during the regular season, it's a fluky stat. We know wins don't really count for pitchers. So I honestly think like it's Cubs or pass, and it's definitely under or pass. I'm close to pulling the trigger here with the under.
Yeah, I think it's under as well. I never like going after that heavy wind, even though you have both lineups really good numbers against both of these pitchers. The Cubs have gotten to Priester the couple times that they've seen him this year. Guys like Yelich and Contreras have great numbers off of Tyone in their career. But like you said, you get that first inning, no runs, down to 5. There'll probably be a little spot maybe in the 3rd or 4th inning where you can get that number even lower. So we've got that getting going for us on a Wednesday. Game number 3 elimination game tonight in the Bronx for the Jays and the Yankees. After the Yankees last night, another football game score for us, Doug. The Blue Jays got out to a 6-1 lead. Yankees come back, the 3-run homer from Judge. They get the Jazz homer to go ahead. And I actually thought, Doug, the biggest thing for the Yankees last night was they actually got outs from their bullpen, all of them, which I don't know if they're going to be able to do 2 nights in a row. They're a heavy favorite tonight, minus $1.77 at Bet Rivers. Blue Jays plus 143. Yankees looking to send this thing back to Toronto, and another big total flown through in the first 3 games, Doug. I'm not so sure. You get this in every game? We're going to get these crazy 10-7 scores?
I was obviously on the over yesterday, especially that Blue Jays had the momentum. And momentum is the thing in baseball, but it's fragile. And I really think, Blue Jays bats went silent as soon as they went up 6-3, and the Yankees responded. I think there was wind taken out of their sails. I actually think we're going to get a really good performance from New York here. Schlittler was fantastic, as we all know, against Boston. But sometimes, as we know from the regular season, when like Gavin Williams, when guys throw a lot of pitches and maybe pursue no hitters, not that Schlittler did in the last game, but other guys throw a lot of pitches, their next game they're usually kind of flat. I don't think we're going to see that here. I worry about the Blue Jays offense. I think there's a little deflating component here. There's ways to play this. You can play Yankees first to 3 runs and you get a good price because obviously they're the second ups. You can say Yanks first to score in a game props category. You can say Yanks just money line if you think they're going to respond. But I worry early about the Blue Jays. I just wonder how flat they're going to be. Now, the problem with those props I mentioned, they could scratch and claw 1 run, and then the Yanks can win 5-2 or something like that. But I'm not pulling the trigger on the over. I think it's a good question to ask. I think anybody who bets saw what they saw the last few games. It's like, wait a minute, what am I missing here? Because that's what we discussed yesterday. But I like New York here. It's a little rich at $1.75, but I think the momentum's on their side.
What do you think of also maybe playing it this way, if you like the Yankees tonight, plus 185 to win the series? Now, they're going to have Fried in Game 5 in Toronto. You think about what that line's going to be. Toronto's been so good at home. You'd have the Yankees at plus 185 on Friday if they got through tonight. Do you like that angle at all for New York?
Who is it, Gossman?
I believe they've going to throw a little combination of Gossman and the kid that pitched in Game 2 that had the 11 strikeouts against the Yankees.
Right,
throw a combo of those 2 guys.
I think the Blue Jays win Game 5 if they get back. I don't think this Yankees team's intimidating stuff, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the momentum carries over for the Yanks in a 3rd straight game. I think because it was a mid-game rally, I just think there's a lot more in the tank of New York tonight. Maybe a run line is the better way to do it. If you think the Yanks win, but it's like plus 120. It's just I just wish the line were a little lower, and the market's too sharp though here.
By the way, Riley Green, big fly for the Tigers. They now lead the Mariners 4-3 in the bottom of the 6th inning in Detroit. That gets the Mariners now plus 265 live if you think they got the rally in them over the last 3 innings there in Detroit. So the Tigers 9 outs away from maybe sending that Game 5 back to Seattle and getting Skubal on the mound. One other thing I want to ask you about in the Yankee Blue Jay game for tonight. And I was on this last night. I love the Vlad props. Vlad has been super hot, cashed the total bases and the homer in the 1st inning. You mentioned how you think maybe the little lull for the Blue Jays after what happened last night. And the reason why I'm not as maybe quick to run and bet the Vlad stuff this evening, Doug, is are the Yankees finally maybe going to smarten up and say, maybe we should let someone else beat us tonight that we've gotten this back to a game 4? Can we maybe pitch around him a little bit? And he's beaten up Schlittler. You know, he didn't have 2 good performances. He faced the Blue Jays twice this year, which I think, Doug, is also a little bit of a difference from the Red Sox last week. He shut them down. Blue Jays have seen Schlittler before, but they got to stay away from Vlad tonight, don't they?
You would think. You would think, but so much depends on the game situation.
Right.
And also, you can get in trouble putting guys on. The Yanks believe in their bats, and Schlittler throws gas. So sometimes they can just match pitcher for pitcher. But look, if the first 2 guys get on or get out, what do you do as a manager? Do you pitch around Vlad Guerrero Jr.? Probably, because the next few guys. But what if there's a guy on first and 1 out? Do you pitch around him?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I criticized all summer when the Yanks only had Judge and everyone else was so dead and flat. And Judge still saw pitches. I don't think you pitch around Guerrero Jr. I just don't. You know, I just think you can beat him with heat, and you just have to hope he cools off. But to your point, it does feel a little bit of stupid because definition of insanity is doing something over and over again, expecting different results.
Guy's hitting like 700 in the series. I mean, you take a lead. I mean, just so you would think he's going to cool off just the law of baseball averages at some point.
Right,
Vlad's going to hit into a couple. He's going to actually hit the ball at somebody at some point, you would like to think, as opposed to hitting it in the stands every time. So game 3, Yankees and the Jays tonight in the Bronx. Game number 4, elimination game. I'm not done, Doug. I got baseball games all day long, elimination games. Game 3 in Los Angeles between the Phillies and the Dodgers, as the Dodgers look to send Philadelphia home with Yamamoto on the mound. Aaron Nola is going to go for the Phillies here. Dodgers considerable, -195 as the favorite. We've got a 7.5 total. Dodgers look like a machine right now, Doug. I mean, I don't know if that's a train that I want to get in front of tonight as much as I've liked the Phillies all year.
You don't. And I like Nola typically. He's a big game pitcher, but I talked about this the other day. I like him when it's cold weather. He throws sort of a heavy ball. That's not the case in LA. And he just hasn't been the same this year. I just don't think, it's kind of funny. This Phillies team reminds me of the Dodgers of yesteryear when they just flamed out in the playoffs. They had the big regular season. And those Dodgers teams would just never get it together. They would face a team that was a little bit more polished and better equipped for the postseason stakes and magnitude. And that's what this particular Phillies team, not the Phillies franchise, but that's what this particular Phillies team reminds me of the Dodgers for like an 8-year stretch where they just couldn't put it together in the postseason. They ran into a team that just did the little things a little bit better, kind of like the wheel play and everything for LA. So I think the Dodgers get him. I think they get to Nola. I've mentioned it before. They hammer righties. I just think the Dodgers have solved their bullpen issues, at least with maybe not a Band-Aid, maybe a gauze pad, like a big Band-Aid. So a little bit more breathing room with the Band-Aid, with the Sasaki in the closer role and some of the starters you can use in the bullpen. But they haven't patched the wound completely and healed, but they've got a big gauze pad on that bullpen issue. So I'm confident. Now, I don't want to lay $1.95. I look to maybe the futures or things along those lines. But the Dodgers should get to Nola. I do think they can hammer him. I just don't think it's been Nola's year. I don't think he's quite the same guy that we've seen be such a force in previous postseasons.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of guys in the Dodgers, Doug, that hit him hard. And that's where I'm going. This is kind of where I'm going to go with the player props tonight, the ones that I like. I like Betts tonight, over 1.5 total bases. He's 391 with 2 homers off of Nola in his career. I'll play him for the home run as well, which is in the low 4s at Bet Rivers right now. And another guy that I love playing in October is Kike Hernandez. He's 364.
He's Hall of Fame.
If you just put in his October numbers, he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of those guys, Doug, that he does nothing in the regular season. He barely plays. The guy shows up in October, and he hits like he's Tony Gwynn. It's just amazing what Hernandez does. I'll play him over 1.5 total bases tonight, too.
Playoff Jimmy Butler only wishes he could be as good as playoff Kike.
It really is true. It's amazing what that guy does. Bet Rivers does also have for you tonight a good special Hollywood Light Show. Either Bryce Harper or Shohei Ohtani to record a home run in the Philly Dodger game number 3. This is boosted from plus 104 to plus 130. Now, I will say Ohtani on his own is around plus 180 for just him to hit a homer. So you take it 50 cents off. You're throwing Harper in there in the mix as well. That's not a bad one tonight if you like playing the long balls like I do as well. So good Hollywood Light Show at Bet Rivers on the specials board this evening. You mentioned the futures as well with the Dodgers. You know, I think they're minus 182 now, Doug, to win the National League. I mean, that kind of, I just don't see it. Even, you know, they finish this thing off tonight or tomorrow night. I don't have a lot of faith in Milwaukee to beat the, and listen, nobody has faith in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's getting it done this year. I don't see them beating the Dodgers in a 7-game series. And you're under minus 200 right now, minus 182. Sign me up, Doug.
I like it too. That's, I think, the right way to play because it gives you a little protection on the Dodgers tonight, Yamamoto. If they get there, I think the series price is higher. The Brewers' arms just aren't quite there. Look, Mizorowski pitched fine, pitched great. But the Dodgers, this was a team that had a win total of 103, right? And they're finally getting it together. And to your point, all joking aside, this lineup is better in the postseason with Kike being in a groove. And then Mookie obviously figured things out the last month and a half. Ohtani can now start and throw darts, and you have the bullpen. So the issues that plagued the Dodgers that prevented them from being a 100-win team have now been sort of resolved. So you got to think of the Dodgers in this bullpen, through this different bullpen lens. They're going to be that much better. You can bet them plus money to win it all. I certainly can't fault you there. They're not going to have home field, obviously not going to have home field in the NLCS. And I just think the Phillies aren't going to be able to come back because the Dodgers can get to this the staff of Philly, even if they get through Yamamoto. But I think the Dodgers should win tonight, set up their lineup in terms of the rotation. And I think $1.82 is the right price. At some point, favorites do have value.
That they certainly do. If you can find the right number, which looks like the Dodgers is right there. Betting Weekly live here with you on a Wednesday. Mike Carver and Doug Kezirian with you. If you like what you hear on our shows, and of course you should, sign up for our newsletter, get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. Also check out, released earlier today, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. That's right. With Nigel Seeley and Sean Calvert previewing tomorrow's matchups at ATP Shanghai. That includes Djokovic in action tomorrow. So the guys got you going with the tennis. I saw they've got a couple good winners this week. So make sure you get involved there. Check out the earlier show, Game Bet Match with Nigel and Sean. All right. Next for tonight, Doug, let's go to the WNBA. They've had a few days off, but the WNBA Finals now shifts Game 3 to Phoenix for the Aces and the Mercury. Of course, 2-0 series lead for Vegas here. Mercury looking to get back in the mix tonight. What are your thoughts here? -4 is where we're sitting for Phoenix in this one. Give me a little preview for tonight, Doug. Tell me a little bit about the Mercury and the Aces here.
Yeah, I've had a monster season in the W. Anybody who used to watch hardball certainly understands that. I'm up like 65 units. I've really seen the ball well this year in the W, but a lot of that is spot playing in the regular season, things like that. Doesn't always carry over to the postseason. I had one future, and it's the Mercury at 25-ish to win it all. And this is a must win, right? And I do think they take care of business. Game 1 was theirs. They blew it. Alyssa Thomas missed some free throws down the stretch. They led nearly the entire game. And then the Aces, sort of regression, finally played well in Game 2 and won convincingly in the second half. I'm on the Mercury tonight. I think it's a very big play. I think it's the right play. We know anybody who bets the NBA knows about the zigzag theory, things like that. The spot really favors Phoenix. I think the officiating will as well. Alyssa Thomas, a very physical player. She'll set the tone defensively. Look, if the Aces hit a bunch of threes, like 23, so be it. But I just think there's going to be human behavior, human normalcy of just relaxing a little bit for the Aces, lacking tenacity, lacking desperation, whereas Phoenix, 0-2 hole, they're going to have the desperation. So I like Phoenix -4 here. I think it's a monster play for me. I might play back during the game a little bit, plus 7.5 and stuff like that. I will say this, Carver, in the NBA, they fixed this about 10 years ago. Teams down 0-2 in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Coming home, they shade the first quarter and first half higher because they think the boost of energy to start the game in favor of the more desperate team. So typically in the regular season, if a home team's favored 4, first half would be like 2, 2.5. First quarter would be like 1, 1.5, right? Well, here it's like 2, 2.5 first quarter. First half's like 3, 3.5. So it is interesting to see that they're doing that in the W and skewing the odds a little bit, which is totally understandable. I just think, and I know a sharp guy who bet first half, things like that, like it's just straight, habit. I just rather, I just think if the Mercury going to be up at half, I think they're going to cruise. This is a game that the team down or up 0-2 kind of punts, and the Aces are really experienced. I know that, and they've won 2 titles in the last 3 years. But this is the Mercury's game.
Any thoughts on the total here, which is 164 is where they're sitting on the total?
So I liked the under initially because I feel like that defense, the refs are going to swallow the whistle. Maybe the Mercury get a favorable whistle. But I think in those things, it's not like the refs. It's not like David Stern old school where they're going to skew and help the team that's trailing. I just think sometimes the team that's more desperate is initiating more contact, driving to the hole more. So they're going to get more whistles. It's not because the refs are favoring them. It's because they warrant more whistles and they generate the contact and things like that. And then Aces are less likely to drive because they're more apathetic because they're up to all the narratives apply here. But I just know sharp guys on the over. I think Mercury, who are a 3-point shooting team and a high-paced team, are going to have their way offensively. And the number's kind of low. These totals have been suppressed in the postseason. Normally in the regular season, this would be like 168, I think. So I'm going to pass on the total because I think it can go any which way. But I think if you bet under, you should bet Aces team total under. And if you bet over, I think you should bet Mercury team total over.
All right, Doug, I want to get involved here tonight. I need a little prop gas for this WNBA game number 3. Give me something spicy that I can get involved in as I flick over when the Yankees are up 6-0 on Toronto in the 8th.
So I think there's some line value here because opportunity usage is very important with the prop market. So I'm playing a same game parlay. Now, game 1, the Aces, I mentioned the Mercury had a chance to win. They led the entire game. I believe they made 17 threes. Basically terrible in game 2. Didn't shoot a lot, but didn't make any. 3-pointers are their calling card, and I think they're going to have the right bounce in their step. Also, everything's going through on the perimeter. So I mentioned Alyssa Thomas. She's their best player, everything like that. But she's a triple-double. She barely gets like 10, 12 points, and she distributes the ball. The 2 offensive weapons from the perimeter for Phoenix are Kalea Copper and Satu Sabali. They are hoopers, especially Copper. She can drive. She's one of the most athletic players in the league. Each of them to make at least 2 3-pointers plus 150. I mean, we're talking like 8 or 9 attempts for each player in each of these games this series. Sabali has some Barkley in her game. I mentioned that because he played in Phoenix for a while. She's a 4. She can drive, rebound, and then she shoots threes. A lot of step back threes from her. She's lefty. She's a good watch. Copper can jump, so she'll shoot even with someone on her. I think we get there at plus 150. That's just a nice payout. If you want to take one of them down to 1+3, sometimes that's interesting. That's about minus 120. I think we see some threes. I think it's going to be the entire game is going to be dictated by Phoenix in this game.
I'm in, baby. Let's roll with Copper and Sabali tonight for the threes, plus 150 for each of them to hit 2. I am in. So WNBA game 3 tonight, Aces and the Mercury for you. Also, pucks this evening. 4 games in the NHL on a Wednesday night. We got off to a good start last night under in the Ranger game. The Avalanche came through. Florida got some late goals in order to get the win over Chicago. Only 4 tonight, Doug. Montreal's in Toronto against the Leafs.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I want to give you some credit here. We swept the board yesterday, all
We
by
did.
you. You led the charge. I like listening to you. That's one of my, I think, strengths as a bettor. Like, even if I don't know everything guru, my wheelhouse is WNBA. I can listen to you break down the NHL and then sort of glean some wisdom and be like, oh, the bettor in me knows this is the right wager. So I really enjoyed it. Tip of the cap to you, out of the gate strong. And let's keep it rolling. But I had to interrupt you there because I wanted to give you kudos.
The funniest part last night, Doug, was I thought that the Ranger Penguin game would be an under because Sullivan was going to go in there and instill this new defensive philosophy for the Rangers, and the Penguins would have a hard time. I didn't realize the Rangers still couldn't score. So that helped out to get us to the under, and the Avalanche with a great performance in LA against the Kings last night. And then the Kings got to go nothing like a back-to-back the first 2 days of the season. The Kings are in
So
Vegas.
strange.
I mean, can you give them a break? It's the first night. You got to send them out to Vegas to play the Knights this evening. Marner's debut for them, minus 205 for the Golden Knights.
It's not even like they're the the Yankees of the league and they want to promote them on the first 2 nights. No, this is a random team for a lot of the league.
It's just the Kings. Flames and Oilers, you get the Battle of Alberta this evening as well, minus 250 for the Oilers, and a flat 6. And the Bruins and the Capitals also this evening with the Caps, pretty big price too, minus 195 for the Caps. Just 2 for me tonight, Doug, with the pucks. I like the over in the Canadiens Maple Leafs game. It's a flat 6 right now, minus 105 to the over. These two teams generally play track meets. I think you're going to have a lot of juice in the building in Toronto for an opening night. I think you're going to get yourself a nice, fun 4-3, 5-4 type of game between these two. Montreal could play as well. And the other one I like this evening, I don't want to lay the big number with Vegas, Doug. I think they're going to win. I like the over in the first period with the Kings and the Knights. I think if you get anything out of the Kings tonight off a loss last night, it's going to be in the first period. They're going to come out hard. I don't think they'll be able to sustain it for the entire night. And I think Vegas will have a little juice in that place, opening night, home crowd. I think we can get ourselves, Doug, a couple of goals in that first period with the Kings and the Knights.
Okay, so I want to play devil's advocate, or at least ask you questions to explain stuff. So if you think the juice, the back-to-back, blah, 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 will only carry over for the Kings, I'm assuming you're talking offensively.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you think that the juice will be low for the Kings defensively for the entire game, and maybe play a Golden Knights team total over for the game, something along those lines, if you think the Kings just run out of gas?
I don't mind Knights team total. I actually don't even mind, Doug. I'm thinking puck line too for Vegas. I think we can lay the goal and a half tonight at plus 125 because I do think that that's a tough spot for LA, especially further into that game. So I'm good. And that leaves you open. I think that the Knights will have a lead. And if it's a 1-goal lead with 4 or 5 minutes to go, these coaches are nuts now, Doug. You see you see Sullivan last night pulling the goalie with 3.5 minutes left, and you get yourself a couple of empty netters, and suddenly puck line gets covered. So it's pretty crazy. Knights on the puck line too. Let's go.
What's the preseason sort of usage? We look in the NFL. None of these teams play any preseason. Look at the Lions. They scored nothing out of the gates, 13 points against the Packers, and then they've been all world offensively since. So there's definitely rust to start early on. Did the Golden Knights approach preseason the right way? They were minus like 200 the other night in a preseason game, and they laid an egg. So there's some huge lines. I just don't know what the usage is in some of these games.
They put their guys out for a few of them, but I don't believe that they most of the time give them a full run. On a regular NHL regular season game tonight, their big guns are going to play 17 to 20 minutes. They're going to be out there for a good chunk. In a preseason game, 10 to 14. They're not going to give them the same amount of gas as they would give them in that spot. So the usage in the preseason is a lot different. Minus 200 preseason game is pretty rough for that, and they got blasted, as you said. But I think that you come out tonight, first-time home crowd, Marner props maybe this evening as well. Tough spot for the Kings there. I kind of like the Bruins tonight if you like a dog, Doug. I kind of do. The Caps were kind of that Cinderella team last year, came out of nowhere, won the Metro. I'm not a big buyer.
Amish Farmer's on your side.
Bruins usually play where it is. Amish Farmer. Bruins play well in situations like this when it doesn't matter. And I don't think the Caps are that great. I think last year was a little bit of an aberration. Bruins aren't great either, I understand, but it's a big number for Boston tonight. And if you want to go for a little dog, little bark, I think that that's one way that we could do it, Doug, this evening. In D.C., first leg of that TV doubleheader. Also, immediately after that Leaf-Hab game tonight, full post-game reaction from E.J. Radick and Pierre Maguire live on the Toronto Sports Rush channel, of course, part of the Bet Rivers Network. They'll get you going. Should be a fun one between Montreal and Toronto. Let's just get a lot of goals. Let's just get that game up there. 5-4, 6-5, tons of pucks in the net between those two. Got NBA preseason, Doug. I ain't done with you. Look at all the action we got on a Wednesday night. NBA preseason this evening. We have got 5 games on the docket. Spurs are at the Heat, Jazz, Rockets, Celtics, Grizzlies, Portland and Golden State, Toronto, and Sacramento. Why don't you start me off, Doug, with the Jazz this evening in Houston against the Rockets?
I don't want to pull a muscle here, Carver, patting myself on the back.
Great night last night. Now that's where I stop you. I'm going to give you the same thing you just gave me. I'm not a big NBA preseason guy. I listened to you talk through all of it yesterday. Bang. You swept the board. 2-0 NBA preseason.
No, look, I'm not typically a big bettor in the preseason. I have some guys I really trust that check out lineups, but I hit them up during the day because I was like, this seems like a really big number, and this doesn't make any sense. It was Bulls plus 8.5, and they get the outright win. And then the over I had went over by like 30 points in regulation. It was just crazy. So this card I don't like nearly as much. I like the Jazz plus the points. So keep in mind, I'm on their over 18.5 for the win total for the season. Danny Ainge's son is in charge of things with his dad hanging around and said, we're not tanking this year. Last year it was blatant. They got fined by the league for sitting Lauri Markkanen, things like that. They're not messing around, even though there is a Utah guy who played high school ball in Utah coming out. AJ's going to come out, and they have every reason to tank, but they didn't even get in the top 3 in the lottery. So I think we're going to see a good version of the Jazz. And the Rockets, with Durant expecting to play tonight, there's just a little bit of a spectacle for this team. I feel like they're a little too cool for school. They have some moving parts as well with Van Vliet out. And I just think the Jazz are going to hang around, play a little harder. And on paper, the Rockets are way better. But I think the Jazz, in this kind of bizarre preseason element and flavor and vibe, I think they're the right side here. You're getting 10.5. I think the Rockets think they're going to be a little too cool for school. And the Jazz are really well coached. Now, they don't have the horses like they did last year. They traded they got rid of guys like Clarkson and Collins. But I still think plus 10.5. There's no way I'd lay it. And I don't really want to lay points in the preseason to begin with. So that's the only way I would play it.
Other one to highlight for us this evening, the Blazers are at Golden State. Minus 7.5 right now at Bet Rivers for the Warriors. Total 219.5.
Again, this is like a glorified lean, just like the other game was. But I'm going to take the dog. I think the Blazers have some rejuvenation here. I think there's a lot of positive momentum with this team. I think keeping Chauncey Billups, which I'm glad to see. Billups is a great guy when I worked with him at ESPN. And there's just a lot to like with Portland. Now, they made the big trade with Simons in the offseason. They got rid of Ayton. I just think there's a lot to like. They go like 10 deep. That second unit plays hard in the fourth quarter. This is, how they approach things last in the regular season. And with the Kuminga saga and everything going on, I just think this Warriors team's flat. They're kind of zapped. And again, big number at 7.5. Strong lean. That's how I'll play tonight's games in the preseason. I liked yesterday's card. Those two games much more.
There you go. NBA preseason tonight at Bet Rivers. We've got college football. It never ends on a Wednesday. I love this. 2 games, and as we mentioned at the top, the start of 49 straight days of football, whether it be college football or NFL. You get a game for the next 49 days. And we have Conference USA action tonight. Missouri State visiting Middle Tennessee. Missouri State, the road. Both of these games, Doug, short road favorites. Missouri State -2 at Middle Tennessee with the 49.5 total. And then in the second game, you have got UTEP, who is at home against Liberty. Liberty is the short 1.5 point favorite this evening in that game. So a couple of very low spread Conference USA games with the road team being the short favorite.
Yeah, this is a young man's game. This midweek stuff. I will say the market is really favoring UTEP. The way I read the screen, so to speak. So I think I just think they stink. I've lost money on them. They look inept. Liberty's nothing, no prize either. So laying points on the road is I'm not running to do that either. It's a tough ask. I can't pull the trigger. Look, we love football. Howie Long said it at his Hall of Fame induction speech. Baseball's America's pastime. Football's America's passion. We love betting football. And we have these two games itching, and we got to scratch. I just can't pull the trigger. Don't get me wrong. I've bet this conference on Saturdays when there's a million other games going on.
Right.
I'm not above it by no means. I just have had a trouble figuring out this UTEP team. I can't pull the trigger there. I think the Liberty total's too high. Sorry, not the Liberty. I just think the Middle Tennessee. I just think that line's too high. The 49.5. It's come down. It was in the 50s. I think it should be in the mid 40s. These teams can sort of just grind, and they're inept. And I think defenses can be inept as well. But I think they're less likely to rear their ugly head, so to speak. So I got to roll with the under. If I had to play anything, I would play the under in the Missouri State Middle Tennessee game.
Yeah, for me, Doug, it's like these are really the first times that I'm going to get a good glance at any of these teams.
You're lucky.
They're just
You're
not.
fortunate.
They're just not on my radar on Saturdays with all the other big games that are going on. But when I'm looking and I'm doing a little bit of research on it, I'm like, man, Middle Tennessee lost by 20 to Austin P at home. I mean, they lost by 20 to Austin P. That's tough to do. I know Missouri State's still kind of making the jump up to the next level here, and they're still transitioning a little bit. I think, like you said, UTEP's really the only one that I would look at tonight in these two games. And then I'll get a look at them, Doug. And then next week, they'll all play again on Tuesday or Wednesday and Thursday night. And then we could build a little bit more information after they probably screw us tonight. You know, we'll watch UTEP once again, send us the wrong way, and then we'll go after them next week. That's usually how it works out.
I'm all for getting involved in some midweek fun, right, with the football, but you just got to be careful here and don't force it. But that's what in-game wagering is for. But these teams, and I will say this, as someone who has bet MACtion over the years and now the Fun Belt and now the Conference USA for the midweek stuff, crazy things happen. Like these, wild stuff happens. We'll get a punt block. We'll get a punt return. Now I know that can happen on Saturdays too. I get it. But you just got the extra juices flowing. These players are on national television, right? That's not usually the case. They got a little bounce in their step. I think the coaches maybe not be prepared all the time for just how to play or structure their practice sort of schedule because now they're playing a game on a Wednesday. And I just think we can see some crazy stuff happen. And then coaches maybe overthink decisions because they're on national television too. So these are all things that sort of part of the narratives when you handicap these games and you end up slogging your way through it.
That's what happens. That's for sure. Bet Rivers, make sure you get involved in their football squares. Players who place a qualifying same game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL or NCAA football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly squares game. Winning standard squares will be awarded a prize of a $20 bonus bet. See the app and website for more details. We'll do, of course, Doug, a lot of football tomorrow as we start to head into the weekend. There's actually a lot of college games tomorrow night, too. I think there's 5 college games, and we have Eagles-Giants on a Thursday night on the NFL side. So we will do a lot of that then. All right, before we get to some best bets before we leave, I do have to update you on a couple things with the baseball. We mentioned 4 elimination games today. The Tigers have now busted out an 8-3 lead on the Mariners as they go to the 8th inning in Detroit. So a 5-run lead now, 6 outs away from getting to that Game 5 back in Seattle with Skubal potentially on the mound. And in Chicago, Doug, the Brewers got a run in the top of the 1st inning. The Cubs responded with a Michael Busch homer in the bottom of the 1st, and they're not done. Bases loaded, 2 outs for the Cubs here in the bottom of the 1st. So, we were kind of thinking 6.5, wind blowing in. We've already got 2 on the board, and we'll see if Pete Crow can put it even more on the board against Priester here.
I mean, there's running on 3rd, 1 out. I will say Priester, walked, got a strikeout for Kelly. So now he's got PCA at the dish with the bases chucked. So he could get out of this, giving up just 1 earned. And so there's a chance for him to salvage maybe a little positive momentum. And, of course, on the same day the Cubs are doing their thing, Javi Baez goes yard for his signature, Reggie Jackson-type swing for his 2-run shot. So good. I tell you, man, this Tigers team, just like we see crazy things in baseball, right? Like the Guardians win the division from being double digits out in September. Watch the Tigers come back and win it all after stumbling into the postseason as a wild card team. So you mentioned Scuba lurking. I would say, I'm trying to think, like, is there anything to lay here in that game? I think the Mariners are done tonight. So 4.5, laying 4.5 minus 205 is tempting with the Tigers. I would just say you got to be careful because when teams are up 5, they'll trade runs for outs in the 8th and 9th innings. So you'll get the catcher's indifference in the 9th inning. You'll get one of those. And then, of course, you only have one more ups for Detroit. But still, minus 205 for the Mariners not to score again, essentially, is, I think, a pretty good play here. So I would look to that, if anything.
I believe, Doug, PCA did get it done for the Cubs because I am now seeing 3-1. Cubs
He did,
in the
single.
bottom of the first. So RBI single for Pete Crow, 3-1 as they are getting after Priester here early and often at Wrigley. All right, some best bets for tonight. We gave you a lot. It's a huge Wednesday. There's baseball. There's college football. There's WNBA game number 3. There's NBA preseason. There's pucks. Here's where I'm going to go, Doug. I'm going to go with Mookie Betts, as I mentioned, over 1.5 total bases. Really like the matchup with Nola. Think that the Dodgers are going to be able to whack him around tonight. And that over in the Montreal-Toronto game. It's one I really like a lot. Flat 6. I'm going to go over in that with the hockey.
I'm not going to overthink it. If I went to baseball or something like, hockey tailing you, I feel like I'd get that meme of Patrick Ewing, like looking at me like, do you practice that shot? Do you practice that in games? I'm just going to go with what got me here. And it's the WNBA. That's my bread and butter. I think the spot is really good with the Mercury -4. I just think that is the right way to play it. You got to forget what you last saw. Aces look sharp. I think Phoenix bounces back. The extra day off of the travel, I don't think that's a necessarily good thing for Phoenix, but I don't think it's a necessarily amazing thing for Vegas. I wish they played yesterday, but I do think clean slate, Mercury will play hard. I think they're going to have the right desperation and urgency. I like them -4, and I also like the same game parlay. Sabali and Copper, each to hit 2 threes, plus 150. Now, there's a chance this game gets away, and there's reduced minutes, but I think that's a good little plus 150, but I'm heavy on the Mercury here. And what I like to do sometimes, Carver, also is play some money line. And then if they get up 8 or 10 or 12, I'll what's called a scalp and just play the other side money line, basically lock in a profit, right? And then use that profit to cover some juice on some other things and things like that.
I did see Scott Sneed just put in the chat, and we always love you guys getting involved in the chat box. There is golf tonight as well. Now, Doug, I don't think knows yet my absolute love and affiliation for betting golf. I absolutely love it. And they're in Japan at Yokohama. And now it's the Bay Current, used to be the Zozo. So you know what, Doug? I'll leave you with one tonight. I like Noren as the chalky for 22-1, and I'm going to play a couple of guys a little bit further down the board. With it as well. Tom Kim at 65, I know, is on my card, and Eric Cole at 75-1. So I'm involved with the golf too, Doug. You can never get me away from the golf. So thank you for bringing that up in the chat box.
Golf's not my wheelhouse. I sort of allocate it to be. So that's what I was about to say. But I absolutely love it. There is no world where. Okay, let's just put this in perspective, right? In the NFL, at Bet Rivers, the Super Bowl odds, take a team like, I don't know, the Steelers at 50-1. Are the Steelers going to win it all this year?
Right.
Probably not. But in a 4-day stretch, you can get a 50-1 bet to hit in golf, and it's not that crazy, right? We see guys now. It's obviously much more competitive, and there's fewer teams. There's fewer teams in the NFL than there are golfers who can win a tournament. But that's the kind of prices I'm talking about. Like Vikings 60-1 are not winning at all. They're just not. But there's a 60-1 that can win this weekend, a golf tournament, and you get 4 days of action. And it also gives you a little sweat on each shot, right? Especially matchups. Yep. You're rooting on every shot for your guy and against others. Betting golf is a very underrated sort of sweat in betting.
It has become, Doug, over the last couple of years, believe it or not. And I love betting the NFL, and I love betting I love betting. It's become like my favorite thing. I love betting golf. It is right there at the top, whether it's outrights, whether it's matchups. I even get stupid with first round leaders. It's just something that I just really
Not getting stupid. It's awesome. But we got a lot of people with action in the chat, right? Like
Look
everyone's
at
getting
this.
involved here.
Judge and Guerrero both to walk at plus 120 today with that one. How about that? As both could be intentionally walked if both managers are smart.
Pitching around them,
You
right?
it absolutely could happen. So good that we've got some chat. Get that going throughout every show, guys. We and Doug now here every day, 5 o'clock East, Betting Weekly Live, and we will get the chat box going, and we will get to it. As I leave you, Doug, one last thing. Will we have a baseball game tomorrow? Will the Phillies or the Cubs, and we know the Cubs have gotten out to a good start, will one of them give us a baseball game with our football-filled Thursday show tomorrow?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, like, with the parlay on the opposite sides plus money. So I think we do. I think we see the Cubs advance. I do. Now that they're up 4-1. So PCA with the big 2-1 count gets a base knock to right, and then the Cubs are still hitting. So that's cheating because they're up 4-1 and obviously heavy on the money line. But
hey, you never know.
I think we do. But
Last
you're right.
night in the
This
Bronx,
team.
things get silly rather fast in some of these, and even the Tigers today. I mean, I thought when the Mariners were up 3-0, we were coming on to start the show. I figured, here we go, Mariners. Tigers came roaring back. So anything can happen in these baseball games. Doug, let's have a big night. Tremendous job as always. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock East, 2 o'clock Pacific. Betting Weekly Live, Betting Weekly Studios, Bet Rivers Network. Enjoy the evening. Have fun with all the games. I'll see you tomorrow, Doug.